Hey, First Things First listeners, before we start the show, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Now let's start the show. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, I'll go to you first. Kevin Wiles, Media High 10. He's positive this morning. He's gonna dismiss what happened last night. He is a happy guy. He's staying positive. Brandon Marshall, Nick Wright.
I'd forgotten.
We got a bunch of. Hey, we got a week left in the NFL and still so many questions to be answered. Maybe, perhaps not last night. Why don't we start there first? Monday Night Football, Bills, Patriots. More like Bills. A week after wrapping up the AFC East, how about Buffalo putting a little cherry on top with a good old-fashioned beatdown of New England? Sorry, Wilds. 4 touchdowns for Josh Allen. Another big night for him is the Bills completing the first season sweep of the New England Patriots in 1999 when a certain reporter on this show was covering that Bills team. I'll let you guess who. It was me. Bills cruise on Monday night, 38-9. Brandon, why don't we start with the Bills angle first? And let's start with Josh Allen. You've been on Josh Allen's bandwagon for a number of weeks now. Is he proving he can carry this team to a Super Bowl?
I think he is. I said it yesterday that this is the only team that can contend with the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Like, and I talk about their offense, what they can do offensively, and how they can keep up with the Chiefs. And defensively, they started out this season with some huge problems on the defensive line. They were beat up at the linebacker position. They were beat up at the cornerback position. They get healthier. Leslie Frazier gets hot. And now you're seeing a team that can contend. This is a really good team. Josh Allen looked phenomenal last night. Stephon Diggs looked phenomenal last night. Brian Daboll, who I've been talking about for a couple of weeks, looked phenomenal last night. This looks like a team that is ready to play ball and that's going to be dangerous in the postseason. I really like what I'm seeing out of Buffalo Bills, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of Josh Allen. You know, this is a kid that was drafted, in the first round, 7th overall pick in 2008, coming in with so many question marks, inconsistencies all over the board. But now we're looking at this kid of probably being a top 4 quarterback in the National Football League. When you look at the numbers, he's completing more passes. His completion percentage is higher than Patrick Mahomes. He's right there from a quarterback QBR rating, right there with Patrick Mahomes. This dude is phenomenal. If he can continue to protect the ball, the Buffalo Bills not only will be good in the playoffs, but also for years to come because Josh Allen is that good.
All right, so let's talk about Josh Allen because last night, obviously, he was exceptional. And there is no equivocation. There is no but with that. He was great last night. And it was, I would argue, his 5th great, like not just good, but great game of the season. And when he plays like that and the Bills look like that, of course they look like a contender. So, Nick, why do you not believe in the Bills? Why do you think the idea that he is a top 4 quarterback, my mind is blown by, and Brandon's not the only person saying that. Right now he's 3rd in MVP odds behind obviously Mahomes and Rodgers. And here's why. Because as much as the Bills Mafia and Bills fans will try to pretend this is not true, what is unequivocally true about Josh Allen this year, not historically, not the playoff game where he's throwing over-the-head laterals, this year is week to week, you do not know what you're going to get. This is his passer rating by game. If you took just his 5 best games of the year, he'd be the league MVP. If you took his 5 worst games of the year, he'd be a bottom 5 starting quarterback by passer rating. And for the Buffalo Bills to make the Super Bowl, he is going to need 3 consecutive games. Forget win the Super Bowl, just make it 3 straight games where that chart is way above that 100 level. I do not think he can do that in the postseason. And so, do I give the Bills credit for what looks like it's going to be a 13-3 season? Absolutely. Do I think they might have the best top-to-bottom coaching staff, as Brandon's been pointing out all year long, in football? Sure. Is Josh Allen proving to be far better than I thought he was coming out of the University of Wyoming when he was honorable mention Mountain West? Yes. Do I think they are a Super Bowl threat? No. Not right now, not this season, not with that inconsistency from their most important player, Wilds.
Okay, but here's the thing, buddy. You should be a little bit scared of Stephon and Josh because, take it from your old buddy Kevin Wilds. I wasn't scared of the Bills for 20 years. And there was a play last night. It was an incompletion with J.C. Jackson that happened here. And I was like, oh, no, J.C., you should be in the Pro Bowl, but don't do this. Don't do this. Next thing you know, touchdown city, Brandon. Went for 3 touchdowns, 145 yards. He does even a little trash talk here, and thankfully he stumbles to not further humiliate. He's like, a little bit of a stumble, or it would have been worse. So Brandon, 3 touchdowns, 145 yards, and I think there's a little bit of a debate who's the best wide receiver, in the NFL. Stephon's number 1 in receptions. He's number 1 in yards. And look at this illustrious panel of AFC East. He's putting up a historic season with some all-time greats like Randy Moss, Marvin Harrison, the great Wes Welker, and the one and only Brandon Marshall. So he's right there.
I love it.
You might just have to support him for the AFC East fraternity. You got to say he's the number 1 guy, Brandon.
You know what? We may have to. It seems like every single week we're talking about a new receiver. I appreciate the love, man. Look, not too many people talk about my career, so I appreciate when you guys do. Definitely enjoy playing in the National Football League. But look, I had Stefon Diggs this offseason at my facility, and he is a difference maker. He makes the trainers better. He makes the other guys around better. We had guys from the Las Vegas Raiders. We had the Cleveland Browns in the house. We had Miami Dolphins in the house. We had wide receivers, tight ends, and cornerbacks from all over. Kansas City Chiefs. And when I tell you, when this guy gets on the field, the intensity level goes up. He demands excellence. My only concern with Stefon Diggs was, look, when you step on the field, your intensity go to a whole nother level, and it can rub people the wrong way. So you're going into a new situation. I just need you to make sure that you check your emotions so you don't run yourself out the door, because people don't understand how high you run emotionally every single day. And I truly believe that Stefon Diggs is probably the biggest difference maker in the Buffalo Bills, because when you go into that meeting room, when you go onto that practice field with Stefon Diggs, he's going to be looking around making sure you take notes. He's going to be looking around making sure that you play and practice as hard as you possibly can. Stefon Diggs is phenomenal, having a phenomenal year.
So that is exactly right. And I obviously didn't spend the time with Brandon this offseason training, but we had him, I don't know if Jen and Wilds remember, I'm sure you do. We had him sitting with us at the Super Bowl. And I appreciate that. In a non-pandemic world, I'll be there next summer. But we had him sitting with us at the Super Bowl. And I talked with him about those emotional outbursts that he had with the Vikings. And at the time, he was still a member of the Vikings. Because I had been critical of him in that, if you remember, they were winning a playoff game against the Saints. And he was really demonstrative, if you will, on the sideline. And he, while acknowledging he's got to learn from that, basically said, this is how I run, man. And this is what makes me me. And what I think, where Bills fans and I, which we have not agreed on much all year, where I think we will be in lockstep, is the move of the offseason across the league was trading for Stephon Diggs. I understand the Vikings feel good.
Yeah.
They have Justin Jefferson. He looks like an awesome young receiver.
Yeah.
Could be offensive rookie of the year. I get that. But there were two superstar receivers traded from playoff teams last year to a different team this offseason. The Houston Texans won a playoff game last year with DeAndre Hopkins. They traded him to Arizona. Houston right now has a bottom 5 record in football. Arizona's on the cusp of making the playoffs. The Vikings won a playoff game last year. They traded Stephon Diggs away. The Bills went from eking into the playoffs and losing in round 1 to now it looks like a 13-3 season with a guy with 1 week left is leading the NFL in receiving yards. So I know there's been this narrative for a long time. Oh, superstar receivers. They don't impact winning. Randy doesn't have a Super Bowl. T.O. doesn't have a Super Bowl. Okay, but it's nonsense. Those two guys have directly impacted winning on a fundamental level for the Cardinals and the Bills, and they have changed the course of those two teams' seasons from the offseason trade that was made, Brandon.
Yeah, and Nick, look, man, I wish we had more time to really break down this whole Stephon Diggs conversation, because to me, it transitions quickly into this whole wide receivers being prima donnas, wide receivers being divas. Because when you look at it, Stephon Diggs, what he was asking for in Minnesota was two things. One, I want an opportunity to help the team win. Number two, I want to unlock my full potential on this field.
Yep.
When we run the ball on first down, second down, and even on third down, and sometimes we take a shot, like that's not good enough when you have two of the best wide receivers. So when we talk about these emotional outbursts, it's a conversation that we need to have with other wide receivers. This is a prime example of when a guy's in a right situation where you have Brian Daboll coming in, and Brian Daboll was my offensive coordinator probably at my toughest time in my career. Traded from the Denver Broncos to the Miami Dolphins. Brian Daboll would come to me and say, hey, Brandon, here's the game plan. Do you like it? What do you see? What do you want to do? So when you have that relationship with your offensive coordinator, when you're a wide receiver, you have that relationship with your quarterback where your quarterback's like, look, bro, if it's one-on-one, I'm coming to you, you're going to get a better teammate. You're going to get a better wide receiver. So I hope this is a case for so many general managers and head coaches out there that's like, look, maybe these malcontent wide receivers they're just not in the perfect situation. Now, I love Stephon Diggs. I love what they're doing, Nick, and I do disagree with you, and we can talk about it later. I don't think that our guy Josh Allen is that inconsistent.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, we can talk about it later. But the Buffalo Bills, big win, season sweep over the New England Patriots. So they stay slotted in that 2 seed in the AFC. And again, we'll talk about the Patriots angle in a little bit. But we got to take a turn, talk about what's happening down in Washington. A team fighting for a playoff spot just waived their quarterback. Talk about Dwayne Haskins next.
What?
First things first.
What?
What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before 2 something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
Let us head to Washington, where they can make the playoffs with a win over the Eagles on Sunday, right? So we know all that. So you can imagine it was a bit of a shock yesterday when the team announced the release of former first-round pick Dwayne Haskins. The 23-year-old never found his way with Washington on the field while causing quite a few distractions. Off of it, it's not a good mix, especially for a Ron Rivera-led team so intent on building a winning culture there. Haskins knows he blew an incredible opportunity, tweeting this: I take full responsibility for not meeting the standards of an NFL quarterback and will become a better man and player because of this experience. What I always say is you get one chance, and this league, you don't know, you may not get another. But Nick, you surprised Washington released Haskins 2 years after drafting him 15th overall?
No, and he obviously did this to himself, but I think first I have to own up to something, and then we have to have, I think, a more important conversation than the one about Dwayne Haskins. What I have to own up to is I'm always on this show saying my lifelong dream one day is to run an NFL or an NBA team. If I am ever to realize the dream of running an NFL team, future boss, don't let me pick the college quarterbacks, because I'm historically bad at it. I thought Rosen was going to be awesome. I thought Haskins fell too far in the draft. I wanted Watson over Mahomes. I'm just awful at the college to pro projection. So when I get that job, don't let me handle it, because I was way off on Haskins. Now to more serious issues. I was watching the pregame show of Monday Night Football yesterday, and I like Booger McFarland a lot. And I think he's a sharp guy, and I think he's been subjected to somewhat unfair scrutiny over the last few years. With that said, I thought he said something yesterday that then started a conversation that was reckless and unfair. And it was that Dwayne Haskins, his failure, is almost a microcosm, not of the failure of the young athlete, but the failure of the young black athlete. And that there is something specific to the pathologies, if you will, of young black athletes that make them more likely to fall in love with the trappings of fame and fortune rather than the hard work that you need to put in order to keep that fame and fortune. And the problem with that take, even though it's a very popular one across all demographics and a lot of circles, the pathologies of the black athlete, is that it's based in no history whatsoever. It's based in no data whatsoever, and it is a toxic thing to perpetuate. If we look at the last half decade of quarterbacks drafted in the NFL, the biggest successes, most of them are black. Who are the guys you know are hits? Mahomes, Watson, Lamar, Josh Allen. I think we can say at this point's a hit. He's not black. Kyler sure appears to be a hit. Justin Herbert, I think, is going to be a hit. That's what, 3 of the 5 guys I listed? Who are the biggest busts? Mitch Trubisky, he's as white as I am. Josh Rosen, he doesn't seem to be working out. Obviously, Haskins falls in that bucket as well. And who are the quarterbacks that we would say, well, part of their issue was they didn't put the work in? Well, that's Johnny Manziel. Or they're too focused on their brand. Well, some would say that's Baker Mayfield. Those guys are white guys. So this idea that we've got an issue not with young people being, caught up with the gram, but with young black people being caught up with the gram is not based in any fact whatsoever. And I just think it's dangerous, and I almost want to say irresponsible, to perpetuate that narrative, because so many people believe it. So many people take it as a fact that you're lucky when you get a Russell Wilson, one of the good ones, as opposed to being like, well, what are we talking about here? And so I think Haskins did this to himself, but I also think some of the conversation surrounding it is really, really unfortunate, Brandon.
Yeah, and Nick, everything you said is on point, and that's why I'm so disappointed in Haskins, because in the past, we've been having these conversations in a vacuum, right, around the black quarterback, around the black athlete. But I really want to focus on the black quarterback right now. So in the past, that's all we've been talking about, right? We're trying to fight that these are isolated situations. Every guy is different. We can't just put white quarterbacks in a box, and we can't put black quarterbacks in a box. So when I look at Dwayne Haskins, there's 2 things that jump out to me, right? One, the reports coming out of him breaking COVID-19 protocols. Everybody has a different viewpoint when it comes to COVID-19. I understand that. But when you have Ron Rivera that just went through one of his last rounds of treatment for cancer in one of his lymph nodes, that's a problem, right? We're talking about the elderly. We're talking about the sickly. We're talking about people who are fighting for their lives, that how we need to protect them. And you come into the facility, you come into the locker room, and you make those boneheaded mistakes. That is irresponsible, and I I'm shocked that they didn't cut this guy a couple weeks ago. I would have cut him then. But now on the football side, everything that you talked about, Nick, the things that I'm talking about with the black quarterback, you got Dak Prescott, you got Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson's fighting still for this right now. Who else do we have? We have
Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson is another name. These guys have fought so hard to break the stigma around the black quarterback, and you are a guy that is playing into the stigma. Not because you're not capable, because you're lazy, because you don't want to be a pro. You are a guy who can't simply read cover 3. You are a guy who can't read cover 4. That's the fundamentals. Cover 4. We have 3-by-1 over here. This is my one-on-one side. This is my zone side. If it's cover 4, this is where I go with the ball. Boom, boom, boom. Like, that's how simple football is. But you refuse to do the work. You rather go to a strip club and do those other things and destroy the work that these guys, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, the Russell Wilsons of the world, have done in the last 10 years to get the black quarterback in this position. So those are my two issues when it comes to this kid. Now, we can push the conversation forward, Wilds, but right now I'm disappointed, and I'm not surprised that they cut this guy.
All right, so, Brent, I have a simple question. Is a 23-year-old guy allowed to screw up? Because you've seen, like, no one's perfect in the league or in life in general. So is he allowed to screw up? I think having the conversation of, and maybe that's part of being the quarterback or being a black quarterback, that you have less margin for error because of systemic issues in society. But what's the line if you were the GM, and what's the difference between, hey, I screwed up, I'm sorry, I'm going to be better, versus, you know what, you screwed up, I don't care if you're going to be better, you're going to be better on another team. Where is that line?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a guy sitting in this seat today that got a second chance, right? So I'm the last guy to talk about, can guys screw up? 100% you can, but here's the issue. Let's talk about football first. When it comes to football, you have to do your job. You get paid to read cover 4. You get paid to read cover 3. It's your job to know if it's cover 4, then I'm working this side of the field. Here's my first read, my second read, my third read. He's not putting in the work to do that. I don't think it's a problem with his mental capacity. It's about his work ethic, his attention to detail. So that's one. Number two, you don't want guys to make boneheaded mistakes over and over and over and over again. The reports that's coming out, that's just what we know. Who knows what else is going on? But the issue around this global pandemic, when the world, for the very first time, everybody's talking about health and wellness and protecting each other and protecting ourselves. This is a guy that's going to a strip club when you have a coach that just is fighting for his life, just got his last round of treatment.
What's a shame, though, built on top of it, is what Brandon was saying at the end the first time, which is we are still at a point where every black quarterback has the responsibility of themselves and their career and their family and their future. And on top of it, it's like, well, if you screw up like young people do, you are going to be used as a vessel to attack future black quarterbacks. I was in Houston when Ryan Mallett was sleeping through practice. No one was like, man, can't trust these mid-round white guys. No, I don't think that's a pick we can use anymore. Nobody is saying, Carson Wentz got all that money, got that contract. It went to his head. Teammates seem not to like him. He demanded it. He doesn't even want to back up Jalen Hurts. I think we got to look at the white guys from small schools. We only do that to the black quarterback, where they have to represent everyone else. Dwayne Haskins failed on his own. And it is just so problematic when that becomes something bigger than him. And that is not a responsibility, Jenna, he asked for or anyone deserves to have foisted on their shoulders.
Right, and it wasn't just one trip up. I think he had a number, as to Brandon's point, a number of different times. This is just maybe the biggest one that we are now hearing about. You wonder whether he will land somewhere else and if he has learned his lesson from this. All right, we'll take a turn. Wilds, earmuffs. Okay, earmuffs. New England has a Patriots problem, and it's a doozy. Back to Foxborough for what happened last night. Next,
What?
First things first.
No, not New
Take 'em off.
England.
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
Back to Monday Night Football, Bills-Patriots, except once again, Patriots didn't show up. Once again, Cam Newton struggled. Once again, he was pulled for Jarrett Stidham, this time midway through the third quarter. Cam Newton, you ready for this, guys? 34 passing yards, 24 yards rushing. That was it for him, and the frustration
Not his
level
fault here.
clearly high after this one. Take a listen to Cam.
You can kind of understand the frustration that I do have when I don't have the outcome because I'm sacrificing so much. You're talking to a person who ain't seen his kids in 3 months. Obviously, the contract is what it is. Submitting myself to this team is something that I've been doing since day one. Being accessible. And yeah, it's frustrating. It makes you mad. It makes you angry.
I believe him. I get all that. I think he has truly put the work in this season, but no results. Brian Westbrook is joining us this morning. Brian, how disappointing has the Cam Newton experiment been for Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots this season?
Good morning, Jenna. You know, for the Patriots, it's been very disappointing. And when you listen to Cam's press conferences over the course of the season, you can see how disappointed he is in himself, as well as how the team has performed. And, you know, Cam has struggled in a bunch of different categories. Just to name a few, he struggled with his accuracy. He struggled with his decision-making. He struggled, and at times it just almost seems like he doesn't understand the offense the way that he needs to be proficient in the NFL. But the biggest thing when you talk about some of his struggles has been their ability to score the football. 1 touchdown in the last 5 games, the 5th worst red zone offense in the NFL. That's just not good enough to win. But Brandon, I got to be completely honest here. The Patriots have much bigger problems than just Cam Newton. When I look at that offense, there's no one on that offense that you fear. There's no one on that offense that you're saying, you know what, right. This is the guy that we gotta make sure we can't get loose. You know, the Patriots have to do a much better job at drafting. They have to do a much better job at developing players. And no matter who their quarterback is, they have to put better weapons around that guy. Or what's going to end up happening is the Bills are going to dominate that division the way the Patriots have for the last couple of decades when you look at it.
Yeah, B, you're right on everything that you said. For me, it's disappointing because I truly believe 95% of everybody out there in the sports world was rooting for Cam Newton. Maybe not rooting for Bill Belichick and the Patriots because people love to hate the Patriots. But when you talk about Cam Newton, everybody wanted this to work. We were almost blindsided when the Patriots picked him up, right? Like, people are like, oh, where is he going to go? Is he going to go to this team? Can go to that team? And then all of a sudden, Bill Belichick comes in and swoops in on the Cam Newton sweepstakes, right? So, but when you look at this, you know, the issue is this, right? It's not just Cam Newton. Bill Belichick, the general manager and the head coach, has failed not only Cam Newton, but other players in that locker room. He didn't do a good job like other teams did with COVID-19 and this interesting offseason, building in different positions. Cam Newton, the quarterback, it's critical that he has a wide receiver and tight end. Can you guys name one wide receiver or tight end that you would say, you know what, I want that guy on my team? Or that's a guy that can help us win games? It's not. There isn't one guy that you can count on. That is a problem. That's a Bill Belichick problem. When it comes to Cam Newton, this COVID-19 thing is serious because before that, we were having a conversation, Nick, about this guy, you know, should we extend him or should we not extend him now? right? Like, this guy was playing lights out. He was looking good. He had games where he was throwing the ball to win. He had games where he was obviously running the ball to win. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit and everything changed. So it's disappointing to see how things has turned out for Cam Newton, because this is a guy trying to get his career back on track, Nick.
Yeah, so there's two buckets here. There's Cam, and then there's the Patriots for this season. The Patriots for this season, God dog it, I was wrong about it. The moment they signed Cam, I said they're the third best team in the AFC. They're the third best team in the AFC East. And that's just thanks to the woeful Jets being there. And by the way, over the month of December, the Jets might end up being better.
Jets are better.
And so it has been a disaster for the team. And now I have to address my buddy Kevin Wildes. Can we put Wildes on the screen, please, alongside me?
All right.
Kevin, do you remember this?
Yes, sir.
You remember this moment? You thought I didn't still have it.
Oh, you kept it.
I still have it.
Thank you.
I kept it. I also kept the tag on it. I don't know if you can see that. You know why? Because this is now a collector's item. It's now like a throwback.
Oh.
You know what I mean? I'm going to give it to my son. He can wear it in 10 years. People will be like, Cam Newton on the Patriots? He's going to be like, yeah, it happened. He only threw 5 touchdown passes, so you might not remember it, but it did happen for 1 year. I can't believe Cam looks like a shot fighter. I can't, but he does. I love Cam. He's one of my favorite players ever. And I understand the COVID situation, Wildes. I get it. But the highlight we're showing, that early third quarter pass where he's moving up in the pocket, has a guy open, and throws a 15-yarder, and it bounces at 12 yards, that looks like a guy whose shoulder is wrecked. I mean, now there's vintage Cam avoiding it. He can't make that pass. Like, I worry about Cam. I worry about him. Like, that looks like a guy whose body is done, as far as throwing shoulder, I should say. And so, yes, the Patriots, Wildes, have major issues that Brandon and Brian laid out. That's true. But if they had a great roster with Cam playing like this, I don't think they'd be good enough either. So I'm worried sincerely about Cam, Wildes.
Yeah. I don't buy the weapons argument that everyone's trying to make. And I know, like, the guys aren't great. N'Keal Harry's not fantastic. But if you had, 2 Hall of Famers out there, Randy Moss and Hall of Famer Julian Edelman, I don't know if the results would be that much different. So when we look forward to how the Patriots are going to move, Cam's got 3 options. He's either going to start, he's either going to be a backup, or he's going to be out of the league. I don't think he's going to be out of the league. He's too good. He's got too much sort of leadership quality. He's not going to be out of the league. He's also probably not going to start. We just saw him put up a season where he went 34 yards last night, 69 against the Chargers, 84 against Arizona, 98. I don't think it's like, yeah, let's roll with that. So it's probably backup. And then the question is he going to back up somewhere else, or is he going to back up in New England? Brandon, I would argue that Bill Belichick should open up that little cap space that we got. We got 4th most next year, and give some of it to Cam Newton for his leadership.
Well,
He's only going to get better as he learns more of the playbook. Remember, we had Vic on saying, like, it takes about 2 years. I do think there's something kind of physically funky, so let's see how the offseason works. And then he's still an effective rusher to come in, even in a Taysom Hill type situation. I can't believe, don't do earmuffs for Nick, but even like a Taysom Hill, whoever we have back there, Andrew Luck, who knows, Matthew Stafford, I don't know who's going to be the Patriots quarterback, but I still want Cam on the roster. Do you think the Patriots should keep Cam on the roster?
Go ahead, Jenna. Like you wanted to jump in there. Jenna seems like she's fired up about this.
I am. I don't know another backup quarterback. I'm trying to think if there's a backup quarterback in this league who's the leader of a team, a backup quarterback who commands the locker room, who doesn't have the skill set to be the #1 guy. Yeah, maybe, but I mean, I don't. It was so disappointing in New England. How do you bring that back and say you're not good enough to be our starter, but you're good enough to kind of be okay? That I have a hard time visioning. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Jenna. You expect your guy to be the guy, meaning he needs to be QB #1. So the only way Cam Newton Wildes is going to be back with the Patriots is if the Patriots don't get their guy. Whatever they're trying to do, whatever their plan is, whether it's in a draft or it's in free agency, it's via trade. If they don't get their guy, maybe they go back because there's a lot that we may not know. Maybe he's dealing with a shoulder injury, but to Nick's point, something's going on. This guy's shoulder is shot right now. It
doesn't
sucks
look right.
that we're seeing a Cam Newton this broken down, but that is an issue. This is uncharted territory for the New England Patriots. If you don't have a quarterback, you could potentially be a loser for 10, 20 years. So hopefully they pull a rabbit out the hat and go find a guy, but right now it's not looking good for the New England Patriots.
And to Wild's point, I'm just telling you right now, Wild's team that doesn't need a starting quarterback, maybe needs a goal line back, has a great locker room, could use a short yardage guy because they don't let their quarterback sneak. I'm not saying everyone should go to Kansas City, but I am saying we don't let Mahomes do sneaks. We struggle in 4th and inches. I'm just saying, Cam, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Let's go.
That actually would be good.
Hey, guys.
I'd be happy for it.
The odds makers have spoken. We've got ourselves a little shakeup in the MVP race.
Jesus.
We're going jet skiing. We'll explain next.
Let's go.
Come on, you know you.
Back here, first things first, we got a week to go in the NFL regular season, and the MVP race is far from over. Fox Bet Sportsbook has updated their odds after this crazy week, and we got a new leader in the neighborhood, and it's Mr. Rodgers. Hello, friends. Aaron Rodgers now the MVP favorite at -250. Mahomes in second at +220, followed by Josh Allen in third at +1200. Brandon, one game to go. Who deserves the MVP, Rodgers or Mahomes?
Yeah, Jenna, this is a big deal. You know, it's an honor to win the MVP title, right? There's a lot of guys that's done it before, and those guys usually become Hall of Famers. So this is a big deal. So I wanted to paint a picture for you guys and really lay out my MVP hierarchy when it comes to the MVP race. So let's take a look at how we had it last week. All right? When you look at this thing, we had Russell Wilson. That was on the back of the jet ski on the tube. And what we talked about last week was that's an unsafe place to be, because at any moment, you know, the guy that's leading can just shake and turn and do whatever, and you're up in the air. And that's what happened to Russell Wilson. We talked about Derrick Henry. I played with Travis Henry. But you got Derrick Henry. This guy, if he goes for 2,000 yards, this is what we talked about. He should be the MVP because there's only been 6 guys to do it in the history of this league. Big Ben. Oh, what happened to Big Ben? Big Ben was hot. Kevin Wiles, my buddy, talked about this guy being a part of this discussion, so we threw him in, but then all of a sudden, he went from the fishing boat to in the water without a life jacket. Josh Allen playing lights out. He wanted to join the party. You had Patrick Mahomes. And I got to say this. Last week, I said there's nothing that Patrick Mahomes can do to lose it at this point. Now let's fast forward to this week after week 16 outing by these guys.
Oh, my God.
What do we have here? No Russell Wilson, God. Nick, right? Where's Russell Wilson? That is now
No,
Devontae Adams jumping into this discussion. You got Devontae Adams there.
Oh, one of Rodgers.
Look at your boy Josh Allen that you say is so inconsistent. He is now back into the MVP discussion with all the odds makers
Josh
out
Allen
in Vegas.
driving right into the wake. Exactly
you have
how I would
Derrick Henry.
expect.
Right. They swapped. Derrick Henry and Josh Allen swapped. Now, Derrick Henry's like, look, I didn't go for over 150 yards, so now I'm out of it. Big Ben is just like, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to get back on track. Yeah. And then you have Brian. Brian, you said it a couple weeks ago, and we laughed at you. You said Aaron Rodgers is the MVP. And I said last week, Aaron Rodgers, there's no way that this guy can win MVP now. It's Patrick Mahomes' thing to lose. He has to totally implode. But now you have Aaron Rodgers in front of the Jets. This is the MVP race hierarchy. What do you guys think?
You know, Brandon, I think you're absolutely right. But I want to take you guys on a little history lesson. About 6 weeks ago, Nick was yelling and screaming, Patrick Mahomes, more touchdowns, less interceptions. Brandon was screaming Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, MVP 3 weeks ago. Nick was still screaming more touchdowns, less interceptions for Patrick Mahomes. And guess what? Brandon, after Russell Wilson kind of struggled a little bit, started throwing the interceptions, he got off that Russell Wilson boat, and now he said, you know what, I'm going Patrick Mahomes. Now, yesterday, baby, little Brian and I are sitting watching my favorite show, First Things First, and first thing in the morning. And guess what our friend Nick Wright said? That Aaron Rodgers can steal. I'm talking about steal the MVP if they win this weekend. If they win this weekend. Let me tell you what Aaron Rodgers has done over the last 5 weeks. Over the last 5 weeks, 15 touchdowns, passer rating over 120. He's completing more than 75% of his passes. Over the last 5 weeks, that offense has been almost unstoppable, scoring over 30 points in 4 of the last 5 games. 2 of those games, they have over 40 points. And then we look back at what the Chiefs have done. Look at last week. They barely struggled to beat the Falcons, who aren't very good. They only scored 17 points. And guess what? They scored 17 points against the same team that the Packers put up 30. There's no question who the MVP is. You off the boat as far as the touchdowns because Aaron Rodgers is dominating the touchdowns. He has less turnovers. Nick Wright, this is very, very easy. Aaron Rodgers has been the MVP all season long. You're just late to the party in seeing it.
All right, let me take a deep, soothing, cleansing breath.
Take 2.
We don't have that kind of time, Brian.
Folks, I have entertained this as a discussion for the last 8 weeks out of being my natural good-natured self and a good sport to the show.
That's true.
But now I'm legitimately angry because on one hand, you have the unanimously accepted best player alive who is first, second, or third in every single passing category, is going to have an 8-to-1 touchdown interception ratio or better, throw for 5,000 yards, is the defending Super Bowl MVP, and his team is 15-1. That's on one hand. And on, oh wait, there is no other hand because there shouldn't be another hand because that's the MVP. The hell are we doing? Everyone's going crazy. Well, one guy's the best player. Everyone knows he's the best player. His team's been the best. They haven't lost in 3 months.
Everyone doesn't agree with that.
Arguably the best statistical resume. And it's like, well, there's one guy who might be having a slightly better statistical season. Might be. But his team's worse. And oh, by the way, it's the weapons. Except the other guy has Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. This is insane. This is Wilds. You've been saying it, and now I'm starting to believe it. This is Karl Malone in 97. I can't believe it. And listen, I'm obviously not a Jordan guy, but it's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. I can't believe it. They're stealing the MVP from my guy. They're taking it from him.
Okay.
There should be an investigation. I need someone to call Bill Barr. I think he's got time on his hands. I need a special counsel because they're going to steal it from my guy. They're going to take it from him, Wilds. I can feel it.
They're not stealing it.
Let's hear it, Wilds.
Brian,
it's stolen.
Do you feel, to Nick's point about the Karl Malone Jordan thing, that throw all the stats out the window, that if you just gave everyone truth serum, it was like, hey, who's having the best year? And you didn't get a chance to look at any stats, or who's the best player. Don't you think that most people would just be like, yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes and we all know it. They haven't lost since God knows when, last year at some point. And we know they're in every game because of this guy. And even when they're like run plays that don't show up on Patrick Mahomes' stats, we know that like the threat of Patrick Mahomes makes everybody better, makes the whole organization better. Does that sway you at all to the Patrick Mahomes camp?
No, that doesn't sway me at all. It actually sways me against our friendship, Kevin, because the truth is this, that if you look at the substance, Patrick Mahomes has flash. I mean, he plays well. We're talking about, some of the best quarterbacks that have ever played the game. But he has flash. We understand that. Aaron Rodgers just goes out there and just throws 3-4 touchdowns every single game. That's what he does. He doesn't have to be flashy. He doesn't have to do these spin moves before the play and trick plays and things like that.
Love it.
He just goes out there and plays well. That's what he does.
Yeah, throws.
And that's you got to watch the games to understand this, Nick.
I'm not
just look at the
anti-Aaron
highlights.
Rodgers.
Watch the game.
I love Aaron Rodgers. And I love the majority of the people in the Westbrook family and everyone on this show. But this is insanity. And to Lil Wayne, who just texted me, stop it, it's Rodgers Award. Hey, Wayne, guess what, buddy? In 2009, you know what Grammy voters didn't do? They didn't say, well, when you really think about it and this and that, who should be best rap album of the year? They said, nope. You know who the best rapper alive is? He also just released the best album of the year. Carter 3. We're giving him the award. They weren't like, let's see what Macklemore put out. This is insanity. Jenna, stop the steal. Stop the steal. Stop this happening. They're stealing the award.
Text your boy, the greatest rapper alive, Lil Wayne, and tell him to come on our show finally. We want Lil Wayne on the show.
I disinvited him.
Get on the show,
I disinvited him. He's out. He's out.
I'm going to text Macklemore too, guys. I'm going to text Macklemore, okay?
If we can't get Lil Wayne, I'm going to text Lil Brian. And we're going to get Lil Brian because that's where we are in the FS1 hierarchy. Back to Foxborough now, where the Buffalo Bills treated the New England Patriots like the New England Patriots have treated the Buffalo Bills for years. It is bizarro world in the NFL. It's Monday Night Football. Brian, thank you. Lil Brian, forever thank you. And hi, Lil Wayne. Back after this. Tonight on FS1, the 10th-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes taking on number 19 Northwestern. Big Ten Hoops tonight, 9 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. It's a good app. Check it out. And we're back here with Super Bowl champ James Harrison. So, James, yesterday Brandon brought up your 05 Steelers team, compared Brady's Bucs this year to that Steelers team. You guys started 7-5. He ended up catching fire at the end of the season, winning 8 straight en route to that Super Bowl win. Brandon thinks the Bucs are getting hot at the right time the way you guys did. So, James, I'll start with you. You agree with Brandon? Could you see Brady and the Bucs going on a Super Bowl run late here?
Definitely, I would have to agree with that. Right now, like you said, they're getting hot at the right time. You're going into December, January football, and you know they're inclining. They're playing better. The defense is playing better. I believe they're third in sacks now. You know they're getting pressure on guys. They're able to stop the run. You know that's something you're going to have to be able to do. You know in December football when you're playing in bad weather. With us back in 2005, you know, from December into January, we went 4-1. Our last loss was, I think, to Cincinnati. But from there on, the defense started playing unbelievable. I think we only gave up an average of about 237 yards a game, something like that. And the offense was clicking on all cylinders, especially with the run game. You know, Ben was doing a lot more, handing the ball off where we had play action. So he was making a lot of his plays in the play action game, or scrambling and, making it that way. So right now, the big thing that they have, Tom is playing. He's playing well. I mean, through the month of December, he has 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. His passer rating is up. I would totally have to agree with him.
Oh, man. That's so disappointing. I thought James Harrison was going to come on here and talk about the importance of a pass rush, talk about how, you got to recognize who they've been playing.
I understand that they don't have the pass rush. They're coming along. Like, I can understand it was against Detroit. He did this, he did that. But it doesn't matter. They're still number 3 in sacks right now. They're doing what's necessary, and they're improving. So
no, hold on. I'm not talking about. Sorry, James. I don't mean the Bucs don't have a pass rush. I meant how they deal with teams who do have a pass rush. I think the Bucs defense is excellent. I think their wide receivers are out of this world. I think their offensive line, when healthy, is really good. I think they have an outstanding coaching staff. The running back room, when healthy, has been really good. There's one position I'm leaving out. I'm trying to remember. It's his safety. It's the guard. Oh, it's the quarterback. I got questions about the quarterback. And I think they're very fair. Because, folks say to me that if I wasn't doing this, I'd be a lawyer. And that, because of the way I argue, which shows some self-awareness for a moment, It's why it can be so frustrating to work with me. I get that. I understand what Brandon, Wilds, and Jenna have to deal with on a daily basis. I can be a pain in the ass. I get that. But if I were a lawyer...
Just going to leave it like that?
This is what I would do. This is what I would do. I would say, I would like the case against the Bucs' contenders. And I would say, Exhibit A. And they would show the court this. And it would be their record against playoff teams. And I would say, oh, well, in the playoffs, you got to beat playoff teams. And they don't. In fact, they lose to them. And then I would say, Your Honor, may I present Exhibit B? And it's Tom Brady if there's a pass rush. And it's like, oh, he's terrible. And I would say, if it pleases the court, in the playoffs, you got to play playoff teams, and most of them have pass rush. I rest my case. And that'd be it. And that really is it, Brandon. I don't think they can beat good teams, Nick. And in the playoffs, you play good teams. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. This is why we asked you the question, James, and this is why, I always go back and look for that 2005 Steelers team, because every year there's always one team that comes out of nowhere. You're like, man, I never would have thought the Tennessee Titans would be that team. I never would have thought the Buffalo Bills would be a team that we should be scared of, right? So when I look at this year, there was two teams to me I was like could potentially be that 2005 Pittsburgh Steelers team. It was the Tampa Bay Bucs, and it was the Las Vegas Raiders. Las Vegas Raiders implode, so now I'm left with them. September, October doesn't really matter. Now we get into the late days in November, early days in December, going into January. I want to see if these guys can right their wrongs. I want to see if these teams can fix those things. So, Nick, you have a great point, right? Every time we talk about Tom Brady, going back to the New England days, it's always he can't handle the pass rush. We go back to them against the Giants. It's the same thing. What happened? Those front four, OC and Michael Strahan, they demolished Tom Brady, right? So it's the same thing. But what happened? He went on to win multiple Super Bowls after that. So what I am banking on is that this defense will continue to play lights out and get better and fix some of their issues that they do have. And then on the offensive side, the identity, the continuity issues, the chemistry that we've been talking about all year, they will work on that. They will fix that. I would have to believe that there are meetings right now talking about pass pro against those teams. Because, Nick, you are right. When they play against a team that can rush for and get to Tom Brady, it can get ugly. But that's Bruce Arians and Tom Brady's job to make those adjustments.
Listen, man, stop that. Any team that can rush forward to the quarterback is going to be a problem.
That's right. Thank you.
This is why we need you more on the show. We need a defensive guy.
It's going to be a problem. So stop all that. Like, it is a legit chance that they have with the similarities between how we did it in 2005 and how they're progressing right now in 2020. It's a legit chance. I think you might be a Brady hater. I'm not a Brady lover. I'm not a hater, but I do like him a little bit more than I did before.
Excuse me.
Okay, all right. So listen. Of course, listen, no quarterback's ever been as good not under pressure. I'm sorry, under pressure as they are under pressure. Everyone's numbers drop. Even Brady at his apex, his numbers dropped when pressured. We know that. But what we have seen, and I don't have the chart to show you right now, is his when-pressured quarterback rating over the last 4 years has gone from like mid-90s to mid-70s to in the 60s last year to 54 this year. So even by Brady standards, that's where the weakness has come. Because clearly, when you look at those numbers in a clean pocket, they're as good as they've ever been. So why aren't his overall numbers as good as they've ever been? It's because of that. But here is the problem I would say to James about the 05 Steelers comp. It's the same problem in the NBA when we're like, hey, who's going to be the 04 Pistons? And the answer is typically nobody. That's why we keep going back to the 04 Pistons. Who's going to be the 05 Steelers? Well, the reason we're not like, oh, it's the 2013 Vikings is because nobody's been able to do it since then. It's a hard path. It's been 15 years since someone's been able to do it. And what the Steelers didn't do that this Bucs team did,
no,
James,
that's not true.
is get a bye.
Reminiscent,
Yeah, go ahead.
Reminiscent of the 2005.
Reminiscent. That's fair. You're right. That is the word.
Let's go to 2000. Yeah, that's right. 2012, the Baltimore Ravens, I believe they won the Super Bowl. Was it 2012, 2013?
Yeah,
we were sitting in the same position.
Right.
they fired their offensive coordinator, made a change, and they took off and won the Super Bowl, right? So there are teams that got it done. I'm not looking at quarterbacks comparing offense to defenses. I'm talking about the team to get hot at the right time. Yeah, it is hard to do it, but there are teams that's like, man, look, this team right here came out of nowhere.
My question would be, and I'll throw it to Wilds, my question would be, did they get hot at the right time, or did they have a bye week followed by the four easiest opponents on their schedule?
Yeah.
Right. Is it just an order of operations question as opposed to they're just playing their best football of the year?
It's a legitimate point. It's a good
No,
point.
but isn't that part of it like, look, the Lions didn't have any of their coaches and Matthew Stafford went down, so Brady was able to play like fantasy football for the first half and run up the score. At the same time, they're going to be playing the NFC East here. So is Brady supposed to be scared of a Cowboys team? Are you supposed to be scared of Washington? Are you supposed to be scared of Joe Judge and the Giants? I'm saying it's like the bye is the number one thing you want to be. And the second thing you want is to be in the Bucs and play a team that everyone laughed at the entire year.
Yeah. All right, well, there is something to be said for picking up steam no matter who you're beating, getting some momentum heading into the playoffs. Let's talk some Big Ben. Why was he calling plays that weren't in the game plan during Sunday's comeback win?
I can't wait to get James' take.
Next. Let's see if James is sticking around another segment. Giddy up. I got no corners. I can do Karate Kid 1. That's all I got. Back here with Super Bowl champ James Harrison. James, thanks for saving us. Otherwise, we were going down a bad Seinfeld road. We're talking Steelers. Your Steelers. It took a big effort by Big Ben in the second half Sunday to come back and beat the Colts. Steelers were down 17 points, facing a possible fourth straight loss with what looked like another day of that offense just struggling. And then something happened in the second half. It's like they flipped a switch. Well, now a report came out yesterday saying Ben Roethlisberger started calling plays that, quote, weren't in the game plan during the second half comeback. So, James, what do you make of the report?
I think it was a thing where Juju and the players were showing that Ben was, being a great leader, and he was, instilling confidence in them and asking Juju, hey, we didn't run this in practice, but, could you do this right here? And I think now it's turned, or it's going to have the ability to turn into, why is it that he had to change all this? What are the coaches doing? What is the OC doing that they can't see it, but he can, and then he has to go out here and basically save the team. It's another one of those 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. And in Pittsburgh, it's going to go like it should go. Like Ben did what was necessary to help the team win, and he made adjustments in game. And the way, they're saying it, it's like he just went out there and just started calling whatever he wanted. He didn't, have any input. So whatever the game plan was that they did all week, it was no longer valid because, he decided that it was better to go another route. So I'm happy that they got the win, but I don't really know in what spirit it was done there.
So, James, let me ask you this question. Is this an isolated issue, or is this an issue with Big Ben over the past X amount of years that he's been there, right? Because a couple weeks ago when they started this losing streak, there was reports that start coming out that Big Ben was changing the plays. All right. And also, you go back to AB. One of the gripes that AB had, Antonio Brown, was Big Ben is a guy that do what he want to do in the organization. He's not held accountable. So is this an isolated issue, or is this a Big Ben issue that's been there?
I don't feel like it's a issue. I feel it's things that have to happen or has happened in game situations where he has made a decision that you're out there playing. When I played for Dick LeBeau, this was the big thing. He was like, I'm calling defense from the sideline. I'm not out there watching you guys play. So if it's something out there that you guys think can work better, let me know. I'll call it. But Dick LeBeau had the insight to be able to see things from the sideline. He didn't even use the call sheet. He would sit there and just, wow, okay, we're going to run this right here. And he didn't even use a call sheet. So his knowledge of his defenses and what he was looking at was tremendous. And we also had free will to, if we felt like we saw something or we had an opportunity to make a play, to do something else. You had times where you had Troy Polamalu jump over the line. A lot of those times, Troy's had deep third. He wasn't even supposed to be up there.
Yeah, I played in some of those games. So,
right. So, even going back to, my play in the Super Bowl, I was supposed to rush, but at that point in time, I felt like we weren't getting there, in enough time, and he was just getting rid of the ball. So I said, I'm going to drop, play for the quick slant in. And, the rest is history. I think what we have there is Ben doing the best he can in, situations to try and get his team wins. And right now, that's what he did. Over the course of, December, the team itself has been, declining, so to speak. And then the loss of, defensive players, you got the defense not really playing up to the standard that's necessary, especially against teams with subpar offenses, like Cincinnati and Washington. And then you have the offense, and Big Ben, like he said, he hasn't been playing well in December. I think he has something like 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 3 of them touchdowns came in last week. So the good thing is, by the second half, he ended up getting it fixed. They ended up getting it fixed and getting the win. He threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The bad thing is it took them a whole half before they were able to do it. And like I said, flip it again, they got the win. So getting wins in December and heading into January.
They had to get the win. It was huge. Listen, getting the win. I gave Ben yesterday Player of the Week. I thought, given the comeback, the situation, they can now rest people in Week 17. The Colts desperately needed the game, and the Steelers took it from them. So I was really giving the Steelers a bunch of credit. But Wild, so often the story is not the story. The story is, why are we hearing about the story? And to me, to use, I know, Wild's your favorite Latin phrase, cui bono, who benefits?
Yep.
The same person that always benefits whenever there's a Steelers leak. Ben. Like, all throughout history, it is, whenever there's something going on in the Steelers locker room, it is Big Ben looks good and someone else doesn't. Why don't you run QB sneaks? I don't know. The coach won't let me anymore. What happened with the anthem? Why were people coming out? No, I want to just be out there, but the Tomlin screwed that up. What's going on with the offense this year? Well, it was all screwed up, and then I took it over. Like, it's always the same thing. It's always that. All of a sudden, a little birdie came out and was like, guess what? You know who saved the day? It's Big Ben. Pass it on. Like, that is what happens.
Ben wasn't the first birdie that came out. He just had to answer for what, his players were saying. So if he had came out initially by himself, I would have been like, okay, maybe it's, it's a little.
Instead, he tells his teammate, instead he, I don't know, again, I'm speculating, Wilds, that he maybe, puts it in the ear of his TikTok superstar famous talk-a-lot teammate, Juju. And shockingly, Juju told somebody. Juju tells everybody everything. Like, come on. It doesn't take a Matlock to figure this one out. Like, we know, Wilds, this is how it goes in Pittsburgh.
But who cares?
We know.
But if you win the game, it doesn't matter. It's not like Daniel Jones is out there changing plays. It's fine. It's Big Ben. That's what his legacy buys you. Well, James, the more concerning thing for me, rather than changing, freestyling, is the fact that the Steelers had 5 yards rushing over 3 quarters. Yeah. Do you think, and if Big Ben is changing every play to no, I'm going to throw the ball again. Do you think that the lack of a run game eventually bites the Steelers?
Yes, that's something they're going to have to improve on. They're dead last right now in the run game. The offense needs to start doing a little bit better job of opening up holes. And if you go into, December, January playoff football, and you get into situations where the weather is not what you need it to be, you have to be able to run the ball. And, not to go back, but that's something that, even looking at Tampa, they're I think 27th, 28th in rush. So you have to be able to do something to change it up. You can't just be doing pass alternative, little dink and dunk passes as run alternative plays, because you can't, progress in running the football.
I think the running game issue is a great point, and I think it could really bite them come the postseason. But Brandon, I just want to revisit the Big Ben changing the plays thing, because here is the encapsulation of the point I was making.
Let
when
him
the
live.
Steelers were struggling, hold on, because Brandon had this story, and I think out of loyalty to folks, didn't really push it quite as hard as maybe others would have. When the Steelers' offense was in the mud and they were falling apart, guess what was happening? Brandon reported it 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. Big Ben was changing the plays. And it's got to be reported through secondary sources, but it was happening. Now that they have a big comeback win, Juju tells the NFL Network, Big Ben's changing the plays. He's been doing it, right? Like when they were bad, he was doing it. Now they won a game, he's doing it. Like, do I have that timeline correct?
You do have that timeline correct, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, Big Ben, James, I think I was the only person on television that picked the Pittsburgh Steelers to make it to the Super Bowl, because I believed in the leadership, I believed in the defense, and I thought a healthy Big Ben will get the job done. But now they have real problems. Y'all, the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers really hasn't changed in 25 years. Pittsburgh Steelers play amazing defense, zone blitz, correct me if I'm wrong, great in the disguise on the back end, and then on the offensive side, we run the football. And right now, they're not running the football well. I think the Steelers have big issues going into the playoffs. I don't see them beating a Buffalo Bills. I don't see them beating the Kansas City Chiefs because of the lack of running game.
It's going to be very, very difficult for them to go in there and beat teams like that without being able to have a two-headed monster, so to speak, and have the abilities to have a threat. So now that you can do play action passes and get more opportunities to get more passing yards because your run game is effective. And add with that, that they're passing the ball more. They're also number one in drops. So now you have a team that's dropping the ball a lot, and they're also passing the ball a lot. So you're putting your defense out there longer now. So their defense is on the field, I believe, anywhere in the last 4 games from 31 to almost 36 minutes. So they're losing time of possession. Why? Because you're passing the ball a lot, because you're having to do run alternative plays. And if that pass is dropped, that stops the clock. And now your defense is out there having to play longer. So the loss of guys like Bush, like Dupree, Spelling, that, you've lost is starting to wear on them.
Yep, big deal.
All right, guys, let's take a little turn, play some drawing a blank. We got to talk about the Seahawks. Their defense has come alive after they were getting torched the whole first half of the season. And now safety Jamal Adams said they're not a good defense. They're the best defense in the league. Nick, Jamal Adams saying Seattle is the best defense in the league is blank.
Quarterback dependent. Listen, Jamal, I really like Jamal. I'm happy for Jamal. I thought his press conference when he made the playoffs was one of the coolest moments of the NFL season. But, methinks the Seahawks defense playing its best football, coinciding with playing Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, Dwayne Haskins, and old Tiny Hands Goff is not a coincidence. So, James, I think they look like the best defense when they're playing that list of quarterbacks. That's what I think.
Tiny hand.
They're
barely grab the football.
Yeah, I agree with you. They had a favorable schedule against favorable, opponents, and they're winning. And he hasn't been in the playoffs before, so that's just him feeling confident, feeling good about his team right now. It's a way overstatement, almost blasphemous, but cool. As long as he feels good about his team.
Something I would say.
James, this was fun. This was fun, James. Thanks for hanging out. We got to get back to our top story, Monday Night Football.
Come
Is
back,
Josh Allen making a serious late-season push for MVP? We're back after this. Thank you, Mr. James Harris.
Thank you.
Final Sunday of the regular season kicks off with the Cowboys in a must-win game against the Giants, which reminds me I need to make this my ringtone so I can hear it all year long, not just during football season. Then the Bears try to win their way into the playoffs against the Packers squad. Also gunning for the top seed in the NFC. Check your local listings for the games in your area. It's only on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Let's talk some Monday Night Football from last night. Bills, Patriots, in a week after wrapping up the AFC East, Buffalo put a cherry on top. Good old-fashioned beatdown in New England. 4 touchdowns for Josh Allen. Another big night for him as the Bills complete the first season sweep of the Patriots since 1999. Guys, that was the year Notting Hill came out. What a movie. Bills win 38-9. Brandon.
That was bad, Jenna.
I like the crowd.
Josh
Not
Allen.
even getting a courtesy laugh. It was bad. No,
Yes.
Just the
Jenna,
girl standing in front
watching
of a
this
boy
game-
asking her to love him. Yeah.
I didn't know that was
Is
coming.
Josh Allen proving he can carry this
What
team?
movie? What movie? Where is that from?
Don't
You
worry
guys
about it,
gotta
Brandon.
help me
Brandon,
out.
you
Notting
talk
Hill,
Josh Allen.
Julia Roberts.
Talk Josh Allen.
Hugh Grant.
No.
Such a
You
good
talk about
All
Josh
right, look,
Allen,
No,
Brandon.
go ahead. Let's go, Josh Allen.
So Jenna, last night
Love the
I
Wilds.
couldn't help but watch this game and think about you, Nick Wright. You know, I understand
me.
how reluctant you were before the season started around the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. I get it. Inconsistent player. Even in college at Wyoming, 58% completion percentage. So I understand it. But I kept thinking about, I was like, man, my buddy Nick Wright has to be watching this game like, man, is this the moment where I got to just kind of flip the script with the Buffalo Bills? And I know the Bills Mafia been after you and just say, look, guys, he was inconsistent the first 2 years of his career. And now this dude is trending in a direction where he's probably a top 5, top 4 quarterback in the National Football League. When you look at his completion percentage, it's better than Mahomes. When you look at his QBR, it's right there with Mahomes. So I know why you feel the way you feel. But Nick, I think it's time for you to really change your tune when it comes to Josh Allen. Yeah. This dude can play football. And a lot of this has to do with Brian Daboll, the development. There's some quarterbacks that come in and are bust. You have high expectations for. This was a guy that was like, you know what? We're drafting this kid because of the development and the upside. And so far, he's trending in the right direction.
He's developed it. Listen, I have changed my tune on Josh Allen from a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I thought it was a wasted pick. I thought they were crazy.
Yeah.
They took a guy who wasn't even first or second team Mountain West in the top 10 of the draft. That clearly was wrong. He is a starting quarterback in this league. There's no doubt about it. Now, will I change my opinion on can he carry the Bills? No, I won't change it yet. So let me tell a quick story. I have a friend, diehard football fan, who right around the beginning of October, he went to a monastery for 8 weeks, cut off from the world, got out a couple weeks ago. He hit me up last night during the game, and he said, I think Josh Allen's the best player in the league. And I said, oh, that makes sense, because you didn't watch football for the middle 2 months of the season. I would think the same thing. Does that person exist? He may or may not exist, but it illustrates my point.
Is this a true story?
Show the line
Tell me if
graph,
this is a true
please.
story
No,
or
it's
not.
not a true story, Brandon.
Listen,
Come on,
listen,
Brandon.
folks. The data does not lie here. He is up and down. I don't know. I understand
chart?
Bills
What is
fans
this?
that want to say that's each game. Wilds, I understand if the take is Josh Allen at his best is as good as Rodgers or Mahomes at their best, you know what? The data says you're right. The data says his A+ game is as good as anybody's. The problem is when he's not at his best, he's not average. He's really bad. And that's my concern for the Bills come the postseason, Wilds. That's why I can't buy into them or him.
Okay, but that's why you should be very nervous, just like I was. The inconsistency should make you a little bit nervous because his highs are so high. If you come over to my house and my dog, and like here's the EKG chart of when my dog bites people who come to the door, you're not going to be like, well, I'm not worried about it. I feel okay. Look at the chart. Sometimes it's down here. And then you get bit. That's what happened to your old buddy Kevin Wild's Patriots. I saw Stephon Diggs go down the sideline. Boom, J.C. Jackson, who should be in the Pro Bowl. Nope, gets wiped out, starts talking trash. I was like, oh, no. J.C. Jackson, don't start talking trash. Don't start talking trash. I'm very nervous. We don't have that good of a squad. Uh-oh, a few plays later. Hello, touchdown time. He says, watch this.
Touchdown.
Hey, where are you? Where are you? Oh, boy. And then he stumbles a little bit here, thank goodness. It makes the celebration a little less painful for me. Brandon, goes for 9 catches, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns on a brand new team. And I know you think this graphic is about you, my friend. It is not. It is about me. And the people saying that Patriots don't have any weapons. I'm like, oh, look at this. We're just one guy away. We don't need a total systemic rebuild of the team. Just need one guy. So for me, it's extra impressive that Stephon is playing so well in a new squad.
Listen, this is hard to do. And my buddy Nick Wright in between segments was like, look, Brandon, D-Hop can actually do this as well. He has 11 catches, 112 catches on the season. Catches, so if he has a great outing, he could be that guy to go out there and also eclipse what I did in 2012. But look, this is more about them and less about me. These guys are playing lights out, and this is a hard thing to do. And I know, Nick, you love data, you love statistics. The Chicago Bears broke it down for me back in 2012 because they were shocked. They were shocked at the production that we had between Jake Cutler and I. They're like, this doesn't happen. There's only a handful of wide receivers that a team has acquired via free agency or trade that they actually match the level of production from their previous team. Uh-oh, I'm back.
Hey,
hello,
everybody. I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking or not. I lost everybody. I lost everything and everybody.
You lost everybody.
This fraudulent MVP race.
It's the only thing.
Let me take this.
It's the only thing I could do to change the conversation. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know who's on the air, who's off the air. Okay, I'll set myself up here because I don't really know what's happening, but I know this. This should not be a debate.
2020.
On the one hand, you've got a guy who everyone knows is the best player in the league, whose team is the best in the league, who has first, second, or third best numbers in every passing category. Yards, touchdowns, rating, fewest interceptions, yards per attempt, all of it. That's in one hand. And in the other hand, you have a piece of paper you should ball up and throw away because that's the only hand you need. Why is this a debate? Brandon, they're going to steal the MVP from my guy. They're going to steal it from Patrick Mahomes.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. How much time we have? We have what? 60 seconds, 90 seconds. This is 2020.
2 minutes.
We're going into 2021. Virtually, things shutting off on the internet. Anything can happen, Nick. This is how I had it last week. All right, look at Big Ben. Look at Josh Allen, the boat. You got Russell Wilson on the 2. Let's see what happened after the last Week 16 outing. Here we go. Now you have Patrick Mahomes. He's on the back of the jet ski. He's on the back of the jet ski. I thought there wasn't anything that Patrick Mahomes could do to give this up. But, Nick, your buddy is going to lose
he threw a game-winning
the
MVP
race. And it's coming down to the last week of the season.
To win the game.
And don't forget about Josh Allen, buddy.
And he lost it.
Josh Allen is in the Don't forget about Josh Allen. You see, he's on the new jet ski.
They're going to steal it from him.
Yeah.
Wilds, you see this happening, right? They're going to steal it from Mahomes.
It's not his.
It's theft.
It's Mahomes is going to get Karl Malone. It's fine. He's going to get Jordan. Karl Malone will play Aaron Rodgers. I, meanwhile, everybody, am the lonely person still like the presidential candidate that's got like 4%. I'm like, hey, everybody, Derrick Henry needs 223 yards to get to 2,000 yards. He's playing the Texans. He ran for 212. I'm like, guys, you got no shot at it. But I'm still there like waving the Derrick Henry flag all by my lonesome. So Derrick Henry,
we're going for Derrick Henry. He's going fishing, buddy. He needed 200 yards last week. He missed out.
We're going to look back at Big Ben. 20 years.
Look at Big Ben just chilling.
And we're going to say...
There's still another week.
We're going to say how did Mahomes not win?
We got another week. Things might shake out.
Mahomes
you never know.
Sit.
That is all for right now.
Team's too good.
Conversation continues next on Undisputed. Everyone settle down. We're back here to do this all again tomorrow. Have a great day.